Good evening, everyone. Happy Hump Day to you all. We're halfway through the week, so welcome to your midweek life session. Tonight we are doing something different. We are having a panel discussion. In fact, a scholars and parents academic empowerment session. Tonight's goal is to share the tools for a successful school year. So we have several guests that will be sharing with us. They are professionals in the education system. Pastor.
Thank you, Minister Neil. Good evening to everyone. I pray and I hope that you are doing well. We're excited about the opportunity that's before us tonight because we believe that our students are going to become scholars, which is what we prayed over them before the beginning of the school year. And so what we want to do is we want to empower you. We want to arm you. We want to provide to you the tools so that both as a parent and as a student, you can take full advantage of this academic year and you can be successful. So what I'm going to do is what I've asked you consistently each time we get together virtually and even when we're together in person. You know what we have to do. Number one, I need you to like this stream. If you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, I need you to like this stream. We want to show people that we are engaged, that we are present, and that we are taking full advantage of the opportunity that is before us tonight. Number two, I need you to share it. I need you to click that share button because even if persons aren't here at this moment, and if they're not here tonight, there will be an opportunity for them to see it based upon the connections that you have through social media. So let's take full advantage of the opportunity. We believe that we need to be digital disciples as well. And so let's take advantage of this opportunity to continue in our discipleship, even in this forum and this format. And then number three, I want you to be engaged tonight. As you are on our Wednesdays for regular life sessions, I want you to use the comment section tonight to respond. You can also put your questions in the comment section on YouTube, on Facebook. We'll be looking for them. And we have persons who are ready to grab some of your questions so that we'll be able to answer them through our panel. They'll be able to provide you with some answers this evening. There's a series of questions we'll go through, and then we'll make sure that we get to your questions as well. So let's get right into it. I know that you have liked. I know that you have shared. Don't forget to comment as we always do. There's a digital fellowship moment that's available to us. So go ahead, use the comment section to greet one another, say good evening, let people know that you are here so that we can maximize the moment and take full advantage of the expertise we have online with us tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Minister Neil, who's going to kick us off with the first question, and we're going to learn a little bit more about the professionals that we have with us this evening.
So thank you, panelists, for coming on the stream tonight with us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves, what school and positions you may have, and how many years you've served in the capacity that you do, and why you chose to continue to answer the call to work in the educational field? Anybody?
We could start with Principal James. How about that? If you call their names out, that would be great.
Okay.
All right. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I am Devin L. James. I do serve as the principal of the Center City Public Charter School campus, the Petworth campus in Washington, D.C. Minister Neal, I think the question was, why am I interested in what called me to this profession? So I've been an educator for approximately going on 11 to 12 years. I started off in Baltimore City public schools as an English school teacher. And I just believe in the power of literacy, right? I believe that babies that look like me, they deserve a powerful and impactful education. My school service African-American students, Ethiopian students, as well as Hispanic students. And so I just believe that education is our gateway to success.
Minister Leslie?
Hi, good evening. I'm Leslie Lewis. I'm a business education teacher at Franklin Middle School in Baltimore County. I've been with Baltimore County for about 17 years now. Been in the classroom for about 6 years now, teaching business education. The reason why I choose to go into the classroom, I believe that we have a number of children that are able to succeed in society, in the world. I'm there to push them. I accepted a teaching call because I believe in our children, those who look like me. So I'm there to encourage them, to push them, and to move them along outside of the school system into a productive world.
Mr. Tucker?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Macon Tucker. I serve as the Director of Equity Center Principal Development in Baltimore City Public Schools. I am in my 21st year in education, and I started this journey because I come from a household where both my parents retired as assistant principal and principal. So it was like, boy, you're going to go to school and you're going to be an educator. And so that's just what I ended up doing. I never thought I would be in Baltimore City schools, but I actually love it. I love to support students of all races and colors. I have switched roles, and now that I'm in a district office role, I'm supporting adults. And so I believe that the work that I am doing with adults is making an impact on the lives of students who look just like you and I.
Last but not least, Sister Sheila.
Good evening. I'm Sheila Bryan. I am a school social worker in Baltimore County Public Schools. I actually serve in 2 elementary schools in Baltimore County, Oakley Elementary School, which is in Parkville, and Summit Park Elementary School, which is in the Pikesville area. This is my 11th year with Baltimore County Public Schools as a school social worker. I actually started out in middle school. I started out at Deer Park Middle, and that was where I was for the first 8 years. And then these last couple of years, I've been in elementary school. And the reason why I do this work is because I want to be a bridge for both parents and children, and to be a voice for them. Quite frequently, our children have a lot of social emotional needs that they have no idea how to express. And so my goal is to teach them how to express it and deal with it appropriately, as well as to provide parent support, because they do not always know how to navigate the school system, nor do they have people that look like them that they feel like they can trust to be a voice for them. So I serve to do that as well.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you to each of you for joining us tonight. The first question I would like to ask, and I'll start with Principal James, is we know that the beginning of the school year is always interesting. It's always exciting and full of potential, but we're in a specific climate right now that is a little bit different. So can you talk to us a little bit about how the current climate is impacting the approach the schools are taking with students and parents?
Yeah, great question. I want to echo what was stated earlier. So we need to address in education, right? We have the buzzwords of social and emotional learning, and I think it's really important to identify that, right? I think it's important to identify that our students have experienced various traumas, right? And regardless of what the traumas are, they've experienced traumas, and so we need to identify that as students are coming into our buildings. We also need to respect the identity of students, and so all of that is important. It's also important to name that while the pandemic was about going on 5 years from now, some of our students are still experiencing that. My school is from pre-K until 8th grade, right? And so my 5th graders and my 4th graders, they didn't necessarily always experience the necessary foundational skills as they would have in the classroom. And so really being able to teach those skills, right? To teach those foundational skills, to teach proper and appropriate peer-to-peer interactions. All of those things are important. And then, of course, considering the political climate, our students are experiencing those things. And of course, we have students that are in various diverse communities. In DC, some of our students are experiencing a lot of things that are hurtful and harmful. So just being able to target those things are important.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And Mr. Tucker, I know that you said that you're working with the adults now. Of course, it's not just the current climate doesn't have an impact just on our students, but it has one on our adults as well. How is Baltimore City Schools navigating this time, and what are you doing to provide the adults with some support?
Great question. First and foremost, the climate seems like it's ever changing. And so one thing we have to do is just take a minute and pause. And before we respond, we need to just pause and make sure that we have clear communications that are going to go out to our school communities. A lot of things that we're pushing out are going out to our principals first so that they are equipped to have the information and they can share it with their school systems. And then we as a district then send out a global communication to our whole school community because we don't want to put out something and then we have to roll it back. Everyone is sometimes on edge when it comes to things happening specifically within the current political climate. And so we just need to make sure that we are clear with our communication, provide people with resources that they may have or that they may need. We do have obviously a large immigrant population. So making sure that all of our communities know where their wraparound supports are, know who they can go to, and just give them that safety and assurity that we are here to support them throughout their daily walk.
Thank you for that. And then Sister Sheila or Minister Leslie, have you guys witnessed or seen any of the impact it's currently having in your schools or the roles that you play? And I know we lost Sister Sheila, so I'll turn that over to Minister Leslie. I think you might be on mute.
You're on mute.
I'm sorry. Great question. We have seen an impact on our students that have affected not only through COVID, but they still having a challenge coming back from COVID to get the necessary tools that they need, not only for that involved inside of their math and reading skills. They need that little push along the way where so that they need more of resources to help them along the way where they can improve on their reading and math skills and help them along the way where so that they are able to manage the skills that are before them. Not only that, but they are able to emotionally grab the tools that they need to be successful along the lines as far as pulling up on those skills that they need to be successful in.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Minister Neal?
Mr. Tucker, how can parents learn about the efforts schools have put in place? What can parents do to support the efforts schools have put in place to address this current climate?
So I would say the first thing is get involved. Be very familiar with who your child's teacher is or teachers are, who their school counselors may be, who, if they're receiving any kind of special education services, find out who their case manager is, get involved. Secondly, always make sure, moms and dads and guardians, that your contact information is up to date. A lot of times at the school level, we may have to make a phone call home and we don't have the most current information. So please make sure that we have your current information so we can contact you. And sometimes you may have to contact the school, right? So for example, when I started teaching, I had a principal that said, you know what, the first contact home should be from you and it should be a positive phone call. And so I would take the first couple of weeks of school and contact my parents first just to say, hey, I'm Mr. Tucker, I'm your child's teacher, and I'll be working with you this year, and start to build that bridge of a partnership. So if you haven't heard from your school yet this year, reach out to your school. If there's a back to school night or open house, make sure that you attend. If there are parent-teacher conferences, make sure you also attend those. Check your child's backpack. The progress report is going to be coming home soon. Make sure you look at it. Make sure you know what's going on with your child academically. And then just find out what resources exist within your school community. A lot of our schools in the Baltimore area or the Maryland metro area are community schools. That comes with a lot of resources. So just make sure that you're dialed in and you have all the information that you need to be successful for your child.
Principal James, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. So in my building, we use a tool called Class Dojo, which is an opportunity for all parents to have access to
Dojo.
You love Dojo, right? So it's an opportunity for, all of us to be able to communicate, right? So we use the class story. One of the biggest things that's important is knowing how does the school communicate with parents, right? Whether it's a newsletter, whether it's Dojo, whether it's Infinite Campus, right? Power School, whatever those spaces are, making sure that you know that. Also being able to find ways to participate and engage, whether does the school have a PTA, does it have a PTO, right? Whatever those spaces are, making sure that you are actively involved in your child's learning. That's really important. I love to I'm always kind of on the blacktop, right? Or during arrival, during dismissal, pull up on the teacher, right? Pull up on the principal and say, hey, I want to introduce myself. So all of those small things to engage the school is really important. I think the other thing that we need to talk about is the growth mindset, or the mindset of the parent, that we are all here to support the development of the child, right? And so making sure that we've developed a relationship because we're all here to support. So that's that lens of communication and that lens of building a relationship is really important.
Right. Sister Sheila, how would you handle this climate and getting information to parents?
Well, I know Baltimore County Public Schools currently is using a system called Talking Points, where teachers can send out like text messages and things of that nature to communicate things in class or things going on in the school and things of that nature. They also use Schoology quite a bit with a lot of the academic. As a matter of fact, one of the things that Baltimore County implemented this school year, because I have children that attend Baltimore County Public Schools, so I get the messages once a week. At the end of the week on Friday, you get a message from Schoology, which shows your child all of their grades, all of their classes. It shows if they're missing anything, if they have anything past due, anything that's coming up that's due for the next week. So that's how the system basically handles and put that information out. But I would say for parents, be tapped in. Be involved in your PTA. Read those school newsletters that you don't really want to be bothered with. It might be a blurb in there that might be really important of something that they're doing in your school. Show up to those back to school nights. Anything that your school is doing. And like someone else said, if the teacher has not reached out to you, reach out to the teacher. Send them an email. Make a phone call, whatever you need to do, and know who your administrators are in your building. For parents, know who your administrators are, because that can be a bridge as well. And so those would be the things that I would recommend.
Okay.
Excellent. I know I'm going to go to the next question, but I want to ask this just to see what the response would be. What would you rate as the percentage of importance regarding parent involvement. How important do you think that it is? And anyone can answer that one, because I see you all.
I would say 100%. I would say 100%.
I knew you was going to say 100%.
I mean, I know that that's not probably realistic because parents have lives, but I mean, as much as you can engage as possible as parents and be as honest as you can with like your teachers and things like that. Because without that, it becomes more difficult to support the children, like truly support them and meet what their needs are. Because sometimes we don't know what's going on with them. And children show up in school with the world on their shoulders, literally. So if it's happening at home, it's showing up in school.
Wow.
Excellent. Did anyone else want to comment before I go to the next question?
I'll piggyback on that. I would say 100%. I would say get involved, build that relationship with the teacher. You know, get to know that teacher. Come in, have them parent teacher conference with them, with your children's teachers. You know, be active. You know, get involved. Sit down. You know, have that conversation with the teacher to see what your child needs to be successful in that class. Don't let it go by. Don't let it ride. Don't think that the child can do it on their own. They need your assistance. They need your help. You know, go to the PTA meetings. As Sister Sheila said, we use talking points. You know, sign up for talking points. You know, that's a good app that we use where so you'll get the information quickly by text or through the app. That way that you know what's going on in your child's classroom. You know, so don't be the last parent at the last minute. How about my child haven't received information that they need? Get involved. If you don't have that information, call the school up. Talk to the secretary. Talk to the administrator. Talk to the teacher. Because that teacher is with your child day in and day out to give them the education that they need.
Excellent. Principal James, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think the other thing that's important, I beg for honesty of parents, right? Be honest, right? Be honest about what your child is experiencing. Oftentimes, I've had a lot of experiences where I would call the parent and say, hey, you know, Devin had this kind of day, be it positive or negative. And sometimes parents aren't always honest. They're like, oh, he doesn't do this at home, or she doesn't do, and then another parent will say, oh, he always does this at home. And so I think it's really important that parents are honest, right? Be honest about, I think someone also identified if a student has an IEP, if a student has a 504, right? We have to be honest about what our students are experiencing, and the school has to be honest about how we are supporting the needs of the school, right? The parents, teachers, we will not grow if we're not honest with one another. So I wanted to add that tidbit.
And can you just elaborate, either you or Mr. Tucker, I think is well qualified as well. Can you elaborate on the IEP, or I think you said 504? Can you just let parents know what that is and why a child or student might have one? Mr. Tucker?
Okay. You're tapping into my former role. It's okay. But if your child has a 504, that is providing them the access that they need to, or the accommodations that they need to access their supports in school. If the child has an IEP, that is a documented disability, and you have the right as parents to meet with the school on a regular basis. IEPs are an annual conversation, but you should be dialed into your case manager at all times to make sure that your child's IEP is being implemented with fidelity as it's written. If you are a parent with a child with an IEP, please participate in those meetings. Do not let the notice come home and you don't show up for those conversations. Please be at the table. If you need support with those conversations, the school has resources or supports, or the district should have resources and supports. And also there are resources and supports that you can find online that are validated advocates that can come to the table with you and talk and help you with what you with your IEP, because sometimes when you get to those tables, there are big words that you might not understand, and the conversations sometimes are over your head, and that's not how you should walk out. You should not feel that your voice was not heard. You should feel that you are a true partner in this work. And so if you need support with that, whatever district you're in, check out their website and get the resources and the help that you need.
And is there a specific department if a teacher is not helpful or assisting with identifying this, is there a specific department or someone in the school who could they reach out to for support?
Sure. So I think first things first, if you are not getting the support you need from the teacher, then you should reach out to the school administrator. The school administrator needs to be aware that you're not getting the resources and support you need. And then if you don't get support from the administrator, then you should contact the district office. I know both Baltimore City and Baltimore County have an office of special education. Their information's on the website. I know that if you're in Baltimore City Public Schools, we actually have a parent response unit that actually will work and walk you through the process, if you need any kind of resources or support. But the first thing is work within the school to reach out to that administrator, because what you don't want to do is go with the administrator's head and they're not aware of what has happened. So first things first, check out what the resources are at the school. If the actual teacher's not giving you what you need, contact that building administrator. I don't know if some of my other colleagues want to chime in, but
Sure.
that's the route I would recommend for parents to take.
Excellent. Thanks. Anyone else want to add to that? All right, let's shift. Go ahead, Minister Leslie.
Pastor Hall, I'll add that they also need to be tapped into their case manager, because whoever's actually teaching them may not be their case manager. Their case manager can be their teachers are their teachers, but a case manager, at least in Baltimore County, is usually a special educator, and they may not actually be anybody that's teaching in their classroom. So if they're not getting their needs met by the teacher, they can definitely bring it to their case manager, because the case manager is the person who sits down with all their teachers and review their IEPs and make sure that the accommodations and so forth are being provided. And then, at least in Baltimore County, and then if they still feel like it's not being met, then I would then go to the administrators and so forth. But if they're not getting what they need for the teacher, they definitely need to go to their case manager and then the administrator.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Sister Sheila. I appreciate it. We're going to transition a moment to ask a question about students, because we've talked about parents a little bit. Minister Leslie, as we kick off another academic year, what do you believe every student should know?
Pastor, can you come back to me on that? Let me think a little bit.
All right. Well, let me go to Principal James and then Sister Sheila. As at the beginning of this year, students come back. Some of them have anxiety. Some of them are excited to be back in school. What if a student were to come to you and talk to you, what do you think that student needs to know?
Yeah. So before we get into of course, we can get into the pedagogy and standards and skills, but that's not important, right? I think I believe in affirming students. And so I think when students first come in, they need to be affirmed, right? There's a lot of conversation right now about student belonging and around how the school environment makes a child feel. And so making sure that students feel like they are welcomed in the space, that they are safe in a space, that they belong in a space, that's important, right? And so before we can teach a student anything, right, before we can remediate or accelerate their learning, the student has to know that they're loved and that they're cared for, that they're healthy. There are when parents send their students to us, we then become their parents for the day, and their parents for that hour, right? For those 8 hours, we're then responsible for them. So students need to know, I'm emotionally, physically, and psychologically safe. And once they know that, then we're able to invest all of the mathematical skills, the reading skills, the literacy skills, the science skills, all of those things. But students will not learn if they don't feel safe in the building with you. So I would make sure that day one and on that we're consistently affirming the identity and the reality of the babies that we serve.
Thank you for that. Sister Sheila?
I agree with that. They absolutely need to feel safe. I think that one of the things that I would say to students is know what your resources are. Who are your people in the school? Find your people. I feel like all students need people that they could connect with, and that might be their classroom teacher. It may be the social worker. It may be the school counselor, but know what your resources are in the building. Know who's available. If you have a social emotional learning teacher in your school, know who that is. For our kids who maybe need breaks and things like that, and they have a plan, know where you can take your breaks, when you can take your breaks, how you're supposed to take your breaks. What is the protocol for that? And I would say, know what the expectations are of your school, of your teachers, of your parents, because that's something that I always remind kids of if they're acting out. What do your parents expect for you to do when you get here? What do your teachers expect for you to do when you get here? So for students, I would say know what's expected of you when you get into the schoolhouse, from home, from your teachers, from your administrators, and those that are supporting you.
Thank you for that. I will turn it over to Minister Neal for the next question.
Okay, so Principal James, if students are struggling academically or emotionally, what advice would you give to parents and students to help address the challenges they're facing?
Yeah, if students are struggling academically or behaviorally, what I do. I think the first thing, I believe in in parent conferences, right? And so I believe in parent conferences, but I also believe in student conferences. I like having conversations to either celebrate that a student is doing well, or having that honest conversation of saying, hey, yo, you're not doing so well. Like, tell me why, what's going on? And so I have a lot of those one-on-one conversations. I also engage the parent, but then also we believe in full with SST meetings, right? And so basically just calling everybody to the table and developing a plan. For example, that plan may be, hey, Leslie, you may need extra tutoring, right? And kind of bringing in another teacher to do that. So we talked about tapping into resources. So identifying what are the resources that we need. Is it tutoring, right? Is it that there are a lot of different resources that curriculum provides for families. So what is the Eureka curriculum providing? Like, what can we send home, right? What is the Dibbles curriculum? All of those things. So just making sure that we are coming together ultimately to support the student.
Mr. Tucker, so how do we make students feel safe who are victims of bullying but afraid to communicate it? And Sister Sheila can answer that as well.
Great question. I think first things first, if a child is being bullied or feel like they're being bullied, they need to tell an adult. It was already said in another question that the child should have someone in their school that they have a relationship with, that they can then feel safe that they can have a conversation with. And so when that child, goes to that adult and, makes the claim that, they're being bullied, that adult has the responsibility to then carry out the process within that school district around the parameters around bullying. I know we are all from different school districts here, so I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but if a child is feeling bullied, they're probably going to lean into an adult that they have a relationship with. And then that adult has a responsibility of documenting it and then notifying the administrator accordingly. And then more than likely an investigation would commence. Mm-hmm. I'll lean on Sister Sheila if she wanted to chime in, social worker.
Yeah. Well, I know as far as policy is concerned in Baltimore County, there's actually a bullying and harassment form that parents fill out that get submitted to the administrator. And then from there, they generally do an investigation or put some things in place. to establish safety, of the student. So that's it from the administrative standpoint. But I know when I engage with students around bullying, and I'm going to say this, and some may not agree, I feel like the term bullying is used a lot, but sometimes what's happening is not always bullying. So part of what I do is start defining what bullying is, because there are certain things that have to be in place for it to be considered bullying. Like it has to be like a power dynamic. It has to happen multiple times. But like there are certain things that define bullying. I do validate children's feelings all the time. And I'll say, even whether you're being bullied or picked on is not okay. So I make sure that's a thing that's in place, but also just getting an understanding of what the situation is. Is it a true bullying situation? Either way, to bring it to administrators for it to be addressed. But just to get some clarity around that, because I feel like oftentimes one thing can happen and students will say, I'm being bullied. And I know that parents also get on the bandwagon that my child is being bullied, but it can be an incident and it may not be repetitive. So just to actually clarify what that definition is of bullying. So then we can take the right steps to deal with it. Is this a situation of a student just being mean? Because sometimes students are just mean to each other and say mean things and it's not repetitive and all these other things. But just clarifying that, and then encouraging them parents to follow the protocol based on what's happening.
Okay. Pastor.
Excellent. So Minister Leslie, we do have a question from the audience. And so I'm going to share that question with you. Since you're our resident teacher, everybody else has either been in the classroom and is out of the classroom at the moment, but they can respond as well. But here's the question for you. How do you ensure students who are struggling in your class get what they need when some classes are disruptive, or overcrowded?
Ooh, Lord, y'all. Ooh, Jesus, help me. I understand. I make sure my students get what they need, even though I have a class of 33. Sometimes I have a class with 33 and 10 behaviors. So as a student, as a teacher, I have to calm the storm of my 10 behaviors to make sure that my other students get what they need. I have to address that with my 10 behaviors, because I don't want my students that want to learn to lose the information and lose the time of me concentrating on the behaviors and not giving the students what they need. So what I love about it is, as a teacher, for my students that have to be interfere with the behaviors, I just pull them to a side and do a small group. For the ones that want to behave, I set them over to the side and be like, hey, until you all get yourself together, you can come back and join the group. What I also like within Baltimore County this year, for those students that may be missing the information that they could not get or receive in a classroom due to behaviors, we have advisory that goes on during the week, where those students come back to that teacher doing, if they have a 1A class with me, I would see them like every 2 weeks, because that is a blue week, where so my 1A teacher, my 1A students will come back to me and get what they missed or what reviews that they need to get up on the lesson. So I don't try to leave my students out from getting what they need. I'll pull them to the side. Hey, we're going to do this while they get their stuff together. We're going to do this. We're going to get the information. If they don't get it, too bad. As long as you get it to be successful in my classroom, I'm fine with it. Because it's a struggle dealing with behaviors and you have a large class size.
Anyone else have recommendations on what you would say to a student who may be struggling due to the disruptiveness in the classroom or it being overcrowded?
No.
Sister Sheila, I couldn't tell if you were moving to respond or just shift.
I'm actually just trying to think what I would say to that student, because that is a huge issue when you have a classroom of certain students with a lot of behaviors. You do have students who want to learn. So, I would actually encourage them to, if they can find ways, I would probably, if it was a student that I was working with, I would probably work with them on some calming strategies and things like that, so they can work to block those things out and kind of tune out what those other students are doing and focus on the lesson that's being given. Just saying, if it's a student that I'm working with directly, that would be one of the things that I would do, is just work with them. Is how can you calm yourself? Because I think part of the other issue becomes when you have other disruptive students, it causes the students that want to be that want to learn to be become elevated and maybe incite a bit of anxiety. So if I can work with them to teach them how to manage their own emotions, it sometimes helps them to be able to better tap into the lesson despite what any of the other students are doing.
Thank you for that. So let me, I can move on to the next question unless someone else wanted to respond to that last question.
Sure, I'll jump in. I think an additional thing that I've done, and as a teacher and now as a school administrator, I believe in teaching student leadership and student advocacy. Someone mentioned around like the advisory groups, and so those advisory groups and SEL groups are really important. But I think it's also important for a student, age appropriate or whatever, to identify, hey, you're disrupting me, right? And I saw that today, right? I had a student who was on the verge of kind of blowing up because there was like somebody kept talking, and he was like, yo, please be quiet, right? And so like, while he didn't use the best words that I wanted him to use, he was able to advocate for himself. And sometimes students being able to stand up and say, you're disrupting and interfering my learning, like that goes a long way. Yes, the teacher is always going to, appropriately manage a class, but sometimes it's important that we also teach that space of leadership, that space of self-efficacy, and that space of self-advocacy to say, hey, I'm here to learn, like you're disrupting and hindering my ability to perform. And they may not use that language, but to be able to step up and articulate what they're thinking and feeling, I think that's also important.
Excellent. Thank you for that. You guys talked about this a little bit earlier, so if it's repetitive, we can definitely move on to the next one. But I just wanted to ask the question, how can parents learn more about the rights that they have as parents and the rights of their children as it relates to their schools and the school system? And I will ask Mr. Tucker first.
I'm sitting here looking at my notes. The first thing I said was, I think that parents should look at their school's website. A lot of things are at the school level are then linked to the district website. So for example, all of our schools in Baltimore City are linked to our actual city schools account. The school more than likely should have a handbook. That handbook comes home in the beginning of the year, and it also could be linked to the website as well. That way you can have up-to-date information. And also within the school system, there should be, board policy and regulations that have the policies and regulations that are there for you to know what your rights are, or what your parent rights are. And that helps clear up, the fog sometimes, right? Like parents think, well, I can do this or I can do that. And actually you might not be able to do it like that. Or it actually might give you the right way to do something, right? So if you want to get involved in school, in your child's school, well, there's a volunteer policy. So this is our volunteer policy. So then that way, if you're coming to, work in our schools, these are the guidance that you needed to participate and to engage with. Because the reality is, if you're coming to work in our schools, we want to make sure that all children are safe. You want, whoever is coming into your child's classroom to volunteer, you want to make sure that they're safe as well. So look at the website, look at the handbook, look at the board policies and regulations. That would be the first avenue I would say around knowing what your rights are as a parent and also the rights of your child.
Thank you. Principal James, anything that you add?
And I think he covered it, right? Like, know the handbook, right? Like, parents always say, I'm gonna go to the charter school, I'm gonna go to the board, I'm gonna go to the board. And I'm like, sure, you can, right? That's within your right. So, like, look at, kind of investigate, research things. I think specifically for special ed, it's important, like, kind of knowing what the rights are, knowing what you have access to, knowing the access points, resources. Every child is entitled to a fair and appropriate public education, right? So just making sure that everybody that as a parent, you're aware. So yeah, just know the handbook.
And just for parents out there, and as well as students who may be listening, can you talk a little bit about why the identification as special ed is not a negative thing? Why parents should not see that as their child being any less than, where it's really a difference in the way that one learns, as opposed to a hindrance to one being able to learn. So I'm not sure, Sister Sheila or Principal James, definitely Mr. Tucker, this is your former area, but can we just highlight that for people, that special education is not a negative thing? So could you expound on that for me for just a moment?
Sister Sheila.
Yeah. So one of the things that I try to explain to parents, one, a IEP is not necessarily a life sentence, right? I believe if children are earlier identified and they get the services and the supports that they need, they may not always need or require an IEP. So quite frequently, parents do not want their children labeled because they'd be like, well, this will follow my child forever. That's not necessarily true. That's really whether they continue to have an IEP is going to be based on whether they meet their goals on their IEP. And as they meet their goals should change and they should progress. But as they also get assessed over the years, the needs may not be the same. And so quite frequently, people don't want to be identified because they think that it's a negative thing. But if we don't, even from a biblical standpoint, if we don't call a thing out, how are we going to deal with the thing? People don't want the label of ADHD. They don't want the label of depression. But if we don't name a thing, how are we addressing it? That's where it starts. But that does not mean that that's what it always has to be. An IEP should be something that is supporting your child in their learning to bring them up to the level where they need to be. So I think if we think of it like that, as opposed to that label bringing them down, then we would actually have a more positive attitude about what it's supposed to be doing to support our students. So those are my thoughts.
Mr. Tucker?
So I will say, I'm going to echo what Sister Sheila said. I'm going to add to that and say special education is a support and a service, not a place. It's not the classroom in the bottom floor, as a lot of us may have experienced when we were in school. Your child may have a different way of learning, and the school has a responsibility of responding to that. And it's an individualized educational program. So Macon's needs are going to look different than Charles's needs. And so Macon's instruction and Macon's goals are going to look different as well. And that's why we said earlier for parents to be involved, because it is a conversation that you should be having on a regular basis. You receive a progress report. An IEP progress report comes home multiple times a year. Read that progress report. Look at the goals that your child has and see if their child is meeting with progress or not meeting. And then call for a meeting. If you haven't had a meeting, call the case manager and say, hey, I want to have a conversation around what's happening with Macon's progress. So again, special education is a support and a service. It's not a place. And, as your child is making progress, take time to celebrate it. There's so many things going on in the world today that are negative. Why not take some time out to celebrate the positive things that are happening with your child?
Excellent. Principal James, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, Mr. Tucker, I appreciate that you identified that the IEP is the individualized education plan. My educational philosophy is I believe that everybody deserves an IEP, and specifically because it's individualized, right? Even all of us on this call, we don't learn the same way. Some of us are not auditory learners. Some of us are visual learners, right? Some of us are kinesthetic learners. And so when we understand that all of our learning is connected to just our person, like some things is connected to our personalities, right? Now, of course, we recognize that there are some disabilities that may impede a child from learning at the same rate, but it's okay, right? And so I think just really removing the stigma and identifying that everybody learns, learns differently. It's really important. And so if we really, if parents just really understood that this is a support in an IEP, it is an opportunity to really support your child and not to demonize your child. Is really important.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I think it's important for parents to hear that and to know that so that they, as well as their children, don't see that as a hurdle. Minister Neal, I'll turn it over to you for the next question.
What should parents expect regarding notifications if anything concerning happens at the school? Does every school have an alert system in place, just in case, ICE may come into school or anything like that? Mr. Tucker?
So for clarity, you're talking about if there's, I think I wanted clarity in your question. So you're talking about like because you said ICE, if ICE shows up.
If any emergencies happen.
Okay. So I know school districts have robocalls in place that will go out to a school community. That's why I said make sure your phone number is up to date and accurate. Different districts have different platforms that they communicate with families. As has already been stated on here, there's Class Dojo that people are providing updates on as well. But if there's notifications that are coming out from a district office or a school-based standpoint, it's going to probably be a robocall, email notification. Sometimes you might even see something come across the ticker taper on the television and or the website. But at any rate, just make sure that your contact information is up to date, because what you don't want to do is there's something happening and we're calling a number that no longer works. But schools should and do have platforms in place to notify parents of if there's an emergency situation on a campus, that we should be able to notify you. And whether it's through whatever portal, whatever campus portal you may have or experience, but it's just important that as a parent that we have your up-to-date information. And also who is the appropriate person to call and contact within your child's emergency contact number. So, if you don't have the right family members on that emergency card, now's the time to update it. A lot of districts, you can just go right online and do it online now. You don't have to sign the old paper pencil version, but just make sure also that we have the right person who can, withdraw your child from school if it were to come to that.
What would you say are the top 3 things a parent should do to support the academic success of their children? Minister Leslie?
Build a relationship with their teacher. Always contact that teacher. Don't wait until, midterms or interns come out. Always calling them, always sending them an email. Also, stay in contact with the admin at the school. And if they can't get in contact with their teacher. And if they have IEPs or 504s, contact their case manager, to make sure that they get in the proper information that they need for their child.
Anyone else?
I think something that I would share in my building, like I said, I service students from pre-K to 8, and so our students aren't responsible for getting themselves to school. So attendance is really important, and so students can't learn if they're not in the seats. And so I would encourage parents to ensure and to support daily attendance and proper punctuality in making sure that students are there. The other thing that's important, I would encourage parents to think about home routines. What are the routines that they have at home, right? How are they supporting literacy or math or whatever? Even thinking around like bed routines, right? We have a lot of students that go to bed really late, and so they come to school sleepy. And so one of the questions that I ask parents are, what time is your baby going to sleep? And you'd be amazed at how many students are going to sleep at 12 o'clock a.m. and having to wake up at 6. And like that shows a lack of routines in the home. And so I would encourage that. And then, as we've echoed throughout our entire conversation, is around engagement. So making sure that we're actively engaged.
Sister Sheila?
I would agree that routines are important. So I would say for a parent to make sure they have good routines prepared for their children, like you said, a bedtime and different things like that, making sure maybe they have breakfast in the morning and the things that they need to be prepared for the day. I would also say, as Minister Leslie said, be connected with your teachers. Know who the people are in the school that's servicing your children. And then the other thing I would say is be honest. Be honest. I know it's hard. I know we don't like people in our business. But once again, I would say be honest. If there's any changes in the home, if parents have separated, if somebody's moved into the home, somebody's moved out of the home, any of those things have the potential to impact a child's academic progress. And so just share that information, not for people to be in your business, but so people can look out for maybe any changes. If there's a drop in academics, now we know why. If a grandparent passed away, a close aunt or uncle, all those things have an impact on a child's academic progress. And so I would say, be honest. And if you have a concern, be honest. That's what I would say.
Excellent. Well, let me say thank you to each of you for your insight and your expertise tonight. It has been helpful and I think very valuable to everybody who's watching. So on behalf of Life Church and everybody else who's out there who's watching not connected to Life Church, I want to say thank you to each of you. I know that it is an additional responsibility for you to hop on after you've worked all day. And so I appreciate it, and Life Church appreciates it as well. To all of those persons who are on and watching, we thank you for watching live. For all those persons who are going to see this on the replay, we thank you for watching it on the replay. We apologize for the issues that we've had with Facebook, but any of us who remember what it was like to go through the pandemic recognize that technology can be tricky at times. But we will make sure that this gets on the replay for Facebook as well as YouTube, and it'll be on the Life Church app eventually as well. So thank you again to each of our panelists who have shared. Thank you to those of you who are watching. Thank you for submitting the questions. Life Church, remember that tomorrow night we will be back in live sessions for our Zoom live session experience with Elder Graves. On Friday night, we have our virtual Family Feud. So if you've not signed up already, please make sure that you do so that we can get everybody on Teams. And then on Saturday morning, of course, we have Tone and Release with Deacon Jones. That is in person. And if you are looking for a place to enjoy yourself, exercise, have fun, and get together with other people, that's the place to be. So be there on Saturday at 10 a.m. And of course, the life experience takes place virtually, in person, and live on Praise 106 on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. So we look forward to seeing everybody there. It's Loving Life Sunday, and so wear your Life Church attire as we close out Back to Church Month. And we're excited about all that God has done this month. Again, to everybody who shared with us, we appreciate you. We are praying for you and hope that you have a successful school year as well. And parents and children, tomorrow, wake up, go to school, have a great day. And remember that we believe, we trust, and we try to exemplify the fact that life is better when we do it together. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.